Number 10, Harry Osborn. Jealousy can go a long way. I mean, if your best friend got superpowers, would you not be the most jealous person on the planet? I mean, not only would I beg them for their powers, but I would probably end up resenting them. Like if my best friend was Spider-Man, yeah, I'm gonna be pretty upset every time I have to take a bus. Making his first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man 31, Harry Osborn is Peter Parker's best friend. Played by James Franco in the Sam Raimi trilogy and Dane DeHaan in the Garfield Almost trilogy, this comic book character is one of my favorites to watch. So while Spider-Man and the Green Goblin, who is Norman Osborn, Willem Dafoe, his dad, they'd go head to head and fight. Peter Parker is also best friends with Harry Osborn, his son. So we got a little triangle of emotions there. So eventually Harry found out about his best friend's alter ego and became a madman, especially after Spider-Man killed his dad. Hello? Let's go. He also knows Peter Parker takes pics of Spider-Man, so he asks him to help with a plan. That plan didn't go well once he found out his worst enemy is also his best friend. So, donning his father's suit and becoming the next Green Goblin. Looking back at James Franco's performance as Harry Osborn, like sure there were cringe moments, but overall this guy did a pretty good job with the character development over 3 films. This guy lasted 3 films. He even had some unreal like buddy cop moments with Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3. Plus we got 3 movies with that James Franco stank guy, you know? Oh, he's so good. Then of course Dane DeHaan played him in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and his plan to hurt Peter's love interest worked a bit better, I'd say. Which Green Goblin did you prefer? I mean, let us know in the comments. Also, side question, who's your dream cast for Harry Osborn in the MCU right now? I feel like Timothée Chalamet is gonna get casted. He's a young age, he looks good, he looks cute, but he's kind of villainous. I feel like it's the perfect time for him to get thrown into the MCU. Number 9, Quicksilver. If you've seen the movie Kick-Ass recently, you may have noticed that 2 of the main characters, Dave and Todd, both ended up playing Quicksilver on screen. So Aaron Taylor Johnston played him in the MCU and Evan Peters played him in the X-Men universe. Quicksilver, aka Petro Maximoff, is a speedster who made his first debut all the way back in 1964 in X-Men issue number 4. He's the twin of Wanda Maximoff and the son of Magneto. In X-Men Apocalypse, he casually reveals this information to Mystique, where she promptly responds with,
"What?
What? Yeah, that's a pretty good response. He goes on to explain how he met him 10 years prior, but he didn't know at the time. And now of course Marvel didn't have the rights to all of these Fox characters, so his story is a little different. Aaron Taylor Johnston's version of the Quicksilver character got his powers from the Scepter, aka the Mind Stone. Same with Wanda, they're the Miracles, not mutants. Different M. See, I thought that Evan Peters' version was honestly wasted. I mean, the fact that he explains how badly he feels for being the fastest person ever, yet he's always late to these big, crucial life moments. These character arcs were really going somewhere, and by the time we got to Dark Phoenix, it just didn't matter. I think they wasted a lot of potential. Even Quicksilver's scenes were the staples in those movies. Like as soon as you saw that Bumblebee start to slow down in X-Men Apocalypse, you already knew what was about to happen. And it was epic. It's probably the only scene that I will see. I see it on YouTube every now and then and I'm like, you know what? I gotta watch this. It's too good. I'm hoping to see him come back in Disney Plus's WandaVision. Fingers crossed, guys. Let's do it. Number 8, Talia al Ghul. As you would have guessed just by her name, Talia al Ghul is the daughter of Ra's al Ghul. She made her first appearance in Detective Comics issue 411 and also played a main role in Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy in Dark Knight Rises, played by Marion Cotillard. This chick's pretty bad. I mean, Talia is the daughter of Melisandre and Ra's al Ghul, and after witnessing her mother being murdered by Quicken, she began to follow her villainous father's footsteps, learning more and more about the family business. Now, eventually becoming Ra's al Ghul's primary heir. At the end of Dark Knight Rises, we see a nice Nolan little character twist, where Miranda reveals her true identity. Now in the comics it's quite fun as well. See, Batman rescues her from Dr. Dark, in her first issue actually, and Dr. Dark had actually once been a member of her father's League of Assassins. Interesting. Ra's al Ghul informed Batman that her and Robin had been kidnapped, so Batman goes in, of course, to save the day. Then he finds out it's all this big setup by Ra's al Ghul to see if he was good enough to take his daughter's hand in marriage. I feel like Tinder works a bit easier, you know? I mean, just type in your preferences. It's not, must have a cape, must be afraid of bats. No parents, no problem, super swipe. She's also the mother of Damian Wayne, but I'll save that story for another time. Number 7, Carnage. That's right, making its first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 359, Carnage is a symbiote that is the offspring of Venom. Yeah, talk about a crazy kid. You think kids running around the mall crying is bad? Imagine the son of Venom. Wild stuff. So his host is none other than Cletus Cassidy. Cletus was sharing the same prison cell as Eddie Brock in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 344. So Cletus is hanging out, just carving a shank, kicking back, you know, doing his thing. And at the same time, he was planning on stabbing Eddie Brock. Being a murderer and all, that's what they, you know, do. So the Venom symbiote then comes in to save the day. So after Brock is reunited with that goopy fun, a small little piece of it attaches itself to Cletus, thus becoming Carnage. See, Carnage is a scary offspring of Venom, and probably the scariest of the Clintar. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing this angry boy in Venom. Let there be carnage. I wasn't a fan of Venom that much, but this crazy redhead is too fun to ignore. He's probably gonna kill it in the next one. Who's gonna make it, you know, Spider-Man 1? Cool. Spider-Man 2, oh my god, way better. And also, we better get an R rating or I'm gonna kick somebody in the shins. The crazy offspring of Venom is being portrayed by Woody Harrelson, thank god, because he's amazing. And if you haven't seen the new Planet of the Apes trilogy, he's the human antagonist of the third one, and it's so good. He does a bang up job. I've always felt like Michael C. Hall would do a good job too, ever since Dexter. I'm telling you. Number 7, Rose Wilson. Rose Wilson is the daughter of Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, making her first appearance in Deathstroke the Terminator issue 15. So after Deathstroke met Sweet Lily after his divorce with Adeline Kane, they ended up having a baby together. How lovely. Nothing more romantic than trekking to Thailand on a search and rescue mission, you know? Applebee's? Nah, it's not good enough. Not romantic enough, Applebee's. Get out of here. So Slade's half-brother, Wade, yeah, Wade Wilson, it's a whole thing, I know. So Slade, using his persona, Ravager, tried killing all of Slade's friends and family. Not cool, dude. So after Sweet Lily drove off a cliff and died, Rose reached out to her father, Slade, but he wasn't on board. He felt like he was responsible for the death of 2 of his sons, so naturally, he's like, nah, get away from me, you don't want any part of this. So she ended up joining the Titans. After being injured from a training exercise, she had her first experience with her precognitive powers, seeing a vision of Deathstroke's future. This next part is insane. So Deathstroke hired Ravager, the same guy who attacked his family, to go and kill Rose for $100,000. That's not even that much either. Like, I mean, higher. Negotiate. Then he alerted the Titans anonymously, and after barely escaping, Rose woke up in Deathstroke's lair, where he apologized to Rose for abandoning her at a young age. I mean, you know, going out for ice cream would have sufficed, but hiring assassins to kill you works just as well. Whatever you prefer. Tomatoes, tomatoes, to each their own. Have at her. Number 6, Loki. Arguably one of the best characters of the MCU, Loki is the adoptive son of Odin. But who are his real parents? Loki Laufeyson, yes, that's his real name, has a little tongue twister in it, is the son of the frost giant, Laufey. He was left as a baby, abandoned in his home world, Jotunheim. During a battle, Odin had found his lost child and took him in as his own. We see this in the first Thor movie back in 2011. When Loki finds out that his motives are peddled by being the offspring of an evil frost giant, he gets a little upset. He always felt different growing up, and often looked down on Thor as he got the most attention growing up, being Odin's true son. Odin had chosen not to tell Loki of his true heritage and raise him as one of his own, being a nice guy and all. But with evil powers comes evil responsibility, and Loki ended up becoming the villain a year later in the 2012 Avengers film. See, I favored Loki's storyline more than half of the main Avengers. I mean, the adoptive thing wasn't taken lightly at all, and Tom Hiddleston did an amazing job showing these moments of weakness and anger to Odin. He met his demise in Infinity War, we think, but you know, we have this whole Disney Plus show titled Loki coming out soon, so I feel like the God of Mischief isn't quite done with us yet, thankfully. Number 5, Alexei Kravinoff. Son of Kraven the Hunter, Alexei is just as capable of killing the Webhead. Making his first appearance in the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 243, Alexei is a son of Kraven the Hunter and a mutant woman. So Alexei has his father's powers, but he also has powers that allowed him to talk to animals, passed down from his mutant mother. I've always wanted that power too. I mean, the amount of times I've had to take on raccoons with like a hockey stick, like, can you guys just leave, please? It'd be so much easier if I could just... and then they leave. That's it, no problems. He's also known as the second Kraven the Hunter, I mean, obviously. And there's even talks of Jason Momoa playing Kraven the Hunter in the next live-action Spider-Man movie for the MCU. And with Jamie Foxx just being announced to reprise his role as Electro, we could potentially see Kraven join in to complete the Sinister Six lineup, which is something we almost got in the Amazing Spider-Man Almost trilogy. So it may finally be happening, people. Hold on to your butts. And if he's defeated, we always know that his son would just come in and be Kraven the Hunter 2.0. Good to know. Number 4, Thane. Remember that guy from Infinity War? His name was Thanos. Kind of a big deal, had a gauntlet, loved snapping his fingers, maybe he watched a lot of West Side Story, I don't know. Yeah, he has a son named Thane. He's the outcome when you mix Thanos with an Inhuman. He made his first appearance in the New Avengers Volume 3, Issue 10, also referred to as Living Death. Thane is quite the descendant. His powers are so strong that he needed Ebony Maw, aka Squidward, to make him a containment suit. Without the suit, his powers were very unstable. I mean, this guy goes to work. He once trapped Thanos and Proxima midnight and an amber construct by using just his right hand. My right hand is really weak, especially today. I have morning hands still, you know, where you just can't open anything. It's just a weak day. Yeah, morning hands. You're welcome for that. So after seeing that, Ebony Maw's like, hey man, let's just chill. I can discipline you. You'll be a good guy. Don't listen to your dad. He's kind of a dick. Number 3, Cynthia Schmidt. First appearing in Captain America issue 290, she's the daughter of Red Skull. That's right, the villain in Captain America, the first Avenger. So Red Skull realized he needs a male heir and went out, found himself a washerwoman, and went about it. After the mother had died during childbirth, Red Skull, better known as Johann Schmidt, almost killed the child because it had been a girl and not a boy. What a monster! So Susan Scarborough was like, hey, that's just a bit wild. Maybe let's not do that. I'll raise her. What do you say? And he agreed. So the Red Skull passed on his wisdom through Susan. He came back as she was a child and put her in a machine that sped up her aging process, making her an adult and giving her her superpowers, thus becoming Mother Superior, the leader of the Sisters of Sin. My favorite part of all this, one time Captain America was put in this machine and became super old. And then when he used the machine to revert back to regular age, he took the sisters with him so that they also de-aged. And I honestly think we're gonna see some sort of version of this in the MCU now with Scott Lang's van. I mean, sure, they failed at making a time machine, but they also accidentally created this aging machine or de-aging machine. So like, can we throw Cap back in there and just get him to sign some more movie contracts? Cause I feel like we're not done with Chris Evans yet. And number 2, Star-Lord. Of course, I have to include him in this list as he found out who his real father was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Yep, I said spoilers earlier, you were warned. After the events of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 unfolded, Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, was able to hold an Infinity Stone with his bare hands. And this didn't go unnoticed. Even groups of beings in the past have been trying to be able to maintain that power, and they failed. Even connecting themselves to share it, it didn't work. It's a power stone, it's way too powerful. His real father turned out to be not David Hasselhoff, but Ego, the living planet. Peter Quill's powers were explained to him by his father, played by Kurt Russell, and soon after we got to see them playing catch, and it was insanely awkward and funny. Ego turned out to be not a nice guy. Killing Ego meant saying goodbye to his father's powers that were handed down to him, these celestial powers. But that wasn't a problem for Star-Lord. I mean, it sure would have helped beat Thanos, but I'm sure he would have just messed that plan up too, moody man. And finally, number 1, Vision. Yep, hear me out, okay? So in Avengers Age of Ultron, we find the twins, one of which I was talking about earlier, Pietro, aka Quicksilver, and the other, Wanda, aka Scarlet Witch. Their powers are given to them not by Magneto in this world, but one of the Infinity Stones, the Mind Stone. After Ultron is accidentally created, he has one idea, to have a kid, make a new body, you know, pass it on. So after being created by Stark, Ultron was born with the same goals almost. So he figured if he took some vibranium and mixed it with that same stone that gave him life, he could make an unbelievable new body, a stronger body. And he nearly succeeds. That is until Tony Stark and the gang comes in, gets the Scepter, and thinks, you know what, why not finish the mission? So they plug the dude in and they finish the download. Now we have Vision. And the rest of the Avengers aren't too fond of this idea, as it's a stronger version of Ultron, and that dude's in the air right now trying to blast the, you know, he's not nice. If at first you don't succeed, just try it again, you know? So Vision pops out, starts questioning his existence the same way his original creator, Ultron, did. The team carefully walks around him, and it isn't until Vision lifts Thor's hammer until they trust him. So Vision floats up to Ultron in the final battle, and Ultron says to him, "My vision." That's his baby, and now he has a cape and he sounds like Paul Bettany. What's going on? Are you guys looking forward to seeing Vision somehow make a return in WandaVision on Disney+? Let us know down below how you think he's coming back, because we have a couple ideas cooking over here. Number 10, Death. Death for all of them. We will litter the path to Krakoa with bodies of all those who stand against us. For there is an apocalypse coming. Those are the words of the first horseman, Death. First appearing in Powers of X number 4, Death is immortal, obviously. He was sealed away on Arakko with his other fellow horsemen, which I will expand on a little later. His mother, Genesis, along with multiple other mutants, made the island of Arakko their home, even putting towers up to protect them from the threat of demons, led by Annihilation. That unfortunately didn't last very long. The demons ended up destroying the towers and attacked all of the mutants. Desperate to save Arakko, Death sent the Summoner to Earth. And who is a Summoner, you ask? Well, Number 9, the Summoner. The son of War himself, born hundreds of years ago on that same island of Arakko, he was part of a group of mutant wizards who referred to themselves as the Summoners. So, what could they do? Well, they could summon various creatures of Arakko. Bam, just like that. So while all those mutants were being attacked, the Summoner was sent away to the Immense Dimension. He was sent to find his grandfather and also carried a portion of Arakko with him. His grandfather, being Apocalypse, was needed in order to save Arakko. Not bad at all. being the grandson of Apocalypse. Must be nice. My grandparents were cool, but they were never like a Ment dimension cool. They just liked Werther's originals. His powers are pretty interesting. Like I said, he's able to summon and control every dark beast of Arakko. Demon elementals, you name it. I mean, in one instance, he actually held one of Cable's bombs as it went off, and it didn't even phase the guy. Number 8, Famine. Also an OG member of the Four Horsemen, Famine is the son of Apocalypse, first in his name to serve. Similarly to the Summoner, Famine had also ended up in the Immense dimension. So after his mother died to the hands of Immense dark god Annihilation, Famine and his other siblings were approached shortly after the omniversal Magistrix Saturnine, who then asked both sides of the war to participate in the challenge of the 10 swords for victory, and they agreed. Famine is also centuries old, as he is immortal as well. Number 7, Jack STARSMORE. Making his debut in X-Men Apocalypse vs. Dracula issue 1, Jack STARSMORE was actually born into a lesser house of the clan Akaba. See, part of the STARSMORE bloodline, he wasn't treated with too much respect. The person that gave him the hardest time was Hamilton Slade, his cousin, who I'll talk about in 1 minute. He had a pretty unique mutation that made him stand out from the rest. That being, he can breathe fire. Yeah, he's a pyrokinetic who straight up shoots fire out of his mouth. Guy must kill it at parties. Oh, and he can also absorb fire too with his mouth. So if anything lights on fire in your kitchen, maybe you're cooking something and there's a little plume of dust, Jack STARSMORE can just suck it up. He was a child when he was deemed a servant to the council and realized he was a small fish in a very big and very overpowered sea. He had to make up for this lost strength, so he would always go above and beyond his duties to make sure everybody around him is happy and safe. We love him. Number 6, Evan SABAHNUR. Sounds pretty familiar to in SABAHNUR. Well, that's because he's his clone. Yeah, making his first appearance in Uncanny X-Force issue 7, Evan was created from the blood of a fallen young Apocalypse after he was killed by Phantom X. So once Warren Worthington became the Horseman of Death, Archangel, he actually was on his way to replace Apocalypse. Phantom X used that small bit of blood and combined it with the world. The world being a scientific facility that's the size of his palm. And he made a clone of SABAHNUR. Not a bad secret at all. Phantom X finally revealed the secret project and used the clone Evan, a good guy at heart, and he sent him after Archangel. It worked because while they were fighting, Psylocke was able to come in and attack him with the Seed of Life. Number 5, William Rolfson. Making his first appearance in Uncanny X-Force number 13, William Rolfson, better known as Genocide, is the son of Apocalypse and Autumn Rolfson. She was afraid that Apocalypse would see their affair-born son and look at him as a threat. So Autumn decided to hide and raise William by herself. Not a bad plan. During this time, William had grown into his mutant powers, and even had a bad suit to go along with it, and he was only like 15. The suit is designed to trap him and contain his powers. He kind of looks like a skeleton in a Hulkbuster armor. It's kind of neat, like a Mars Attacks alien. He can generate radioactive plasma, which is a nice touch in a fight. Yeah, you want to go? Hope you like plasma, bucko. Bam! It's also as hot as the sun's core, so it's real good. In the Dark Angel saga, when William and his mom are hiding, Archangel found them. At this time, he was Apocalypse's replacement, so he recruited William. Eventually, William's mom caught on what was going on and gave them hell. Archangel reacted by killing her. What a Number 4, Margaret Slade. So as a little girl, she straight up watched Apocalypse himself fight a gang of demons, literally cutting them up. She gave birth to Hamilton Slade, and then after that, her second son, Frederick Slade, who we'll get into a little bit. She's very stern and ruthless, as one would assume, being a descendant of Apocalypse and all. Like, imagine being a child and witnessing Apocalypse being summoned to fight demons. Like, you wouldn't necessarily be the most bubbly of all teenagers after that. I feel like you'd be a bit scarred. She favorited one of her sons a lot more simply because of the fact that he was violent and ruthless as well as her. They both had the bloodlines of Apocalypse. One was just a bit more different, if I can say that. A pretty notable power that Margaret possessed is that she's able to transform the molecules of her hands into a metallic material that she shaped into talons or claws. Kind of like that dude from the Terminator with the metal swords. These are jazz hands. These are gold. I think it's gold, right? These are gold. These are jazz hands. One of the two. Go watch Bring It On. Number 3, Frederick Slade. Born as the second child of Margaret Slade, making his first appearance in X-Men Apocalypse vs. Dracula issue 2, he's in the bloodline of Apocalypse, and he's too cool not to include. Born in the 18th century, his family was part of the main branch of Clan Akaba. So basically, he was a second-born and was physically smaller, so he didn't really get too much attention from his mom. Middle child syndrome, kinda. Pretty mean. She was actually using her time and energy to mold Hamilton Slade. The family was pretty wealthy and spent most of their time in the Alexandria house, aka the cool treehouse meeting place for Clan Akaba. So Frederick, growing up more or less under the radar, that is until Ozymandias came along and saw new potential in him. Ozymandias spent his time watching the members of Clan Akaba as they betray each other and even kill each other just to get closer to Apocalypse. But Frederick Slade, he was a different egg. Ozymandias saw courage, fairness, and compassion inside of Frederick, so he trained him to become the leader of Akaba, and to be donned the title of the Fittest. What a great nickname that would be, like, oh Frederick, oh you mean Frederick the Fittest? Yeah, I know him, he's my boss. So now he's a descendant of Apocalypse, so he of course has a few tricks up his sleeve. Self-molecular manipulation for starters, which most upper level members of Clan Akaba possess. Also teleportation, but this one is unique to him. Not only can he teleport himself, but he can also teleport objects or people. It makes a cool blink sound when he teleports too. Gotta love the small details. Number 2, Hamilton Slade. Okay, remember that older brother, Frederick, that I mentioned? Yeah, that's Hamilton Slade. He made his first appearance in X-Men Apocalypse vs. Dracula, issue 1. He's a vampire mutant, so no wonder he got all the attention while Frederick sat on the sidelines. He's also got this cool, like, big clan tattoo right on his chest. Dude's not playing around. We meet him in the Victorian era, born into that same wealthy family. He was born inheriting a strong dose of Apocalypse's blood, so naturally, he was destined to become the leader. It's in his blood, literally. He looked at himself as he would Apocalypse. This guy's a born leader. The members of the clan had to take orders from him if they wanted to or not. He ended up dying at the hands of Dracula, which not a bad way to go out. Or not go out. Yeah, he became part of the undead after that and returned as a vampire. As if this guy couldn't get any cooler. So Dracula and his new crew, now including Hamilton Slade, attacked Clan Akaba, killing his own mother in the meantime. And then little bro Frederick Slade came in and killed him. Yeah, he teleported his head away from the rest of his body. Nice touch, super gross. And lastly, number 1, Blink, the great granddaughter of Margaret Slade, also known as Clarice Ferguson, hello Clarice, was a main player in the Age of Apocalypse storyline. Making her first debut in Uncanny X-Men issue 317, she was one of the many mutants that were captured by the Phalanx. She's known to be rather tense and panicky because of her given powers. Anybody caught in the Blink wave, which is her teleportation field, would just get shredded. Now I don't mean like get jacked, like they would get shredded apart, their body just poof, gone. She isn't the best at controlling her powers too. And those powers being able to create teleportation warp portals, so she can displace anything and anybody as well, but she also used these portals to throw a weapon back at an enemy. Kinda like in Infinity War during the first New York battle, when Strange and Wong used their portals to throw Ebony Maw's brick darts back at him. It's pretty cool stuff. She joined the mutant nation of Krakoa and battled Nightcrawler, which is a pretty sweet issue.
Number 10, Gloria BRICKMAN. Gloria was Mystique's adopted daughter while she was in the guise of Mallory BRICKMAN. In fact, this secret identity for Mystique created a bit of a mystery, as we don't know if there ever was a real Mallory BRICKMAN, or if Mystique had been impersonating her since she met Senator Ralph BRICKMAN. It's possible that Mallory was simply a persona that Mystique created, and that never really existed without her, especially as their young, likely preteen daughter was revealed to be adopted. Gloria remained suspicious of her mother. She talked to a federal agent about her concerns when it came to her mom always acting strangely. Mystique herself appeared to be just using her family to help her get back at Sabretooth, who had kidnapped the love of her life's grandson, Destiny's grandson, Trevor Chase.
Number 9, Trevor Chase. Speaking of Trevor, let's talk about the little guy. This one might be a stretch, but just go with me on this one. We all know that Mystique and Destiny are like a thing. They're lovers, they're a couple, they're life partners. You get the point. As life partners, they share an extended family, so Destiny's descendants are also Mystique's in a way. So Destiny's grandson, Trevor Chase, is also Mystique's, sort of. Trevor is the son of Justine and Cole Chase, Justine being Destiny's daughter. Justine and Cole were friends with Mystique, and she looked after them after Destiny's death. They're all pretty much a family, so I'm saying that Trevor is basically a child of Mystique adjacent.
Number 8, Anna Raven. This is the daughter of an alternate Mystique in Destiny on Earth 797. His codename instead of Mystique was either Mystic or Mystique, which Mystique in French, which is weird because Mystique, you know, it is French. Anyways, in Exiles, we see him visiting the graves of his life partner Destiny and their daughter Anna Raven, likely an alternate version of Rogue, possibly a version who was the naturally born daughter of her parents Mystique and Destiny, which would be pretty cool.
Number 7, Linda Darkholme. Linda Darkholme was married to Kurt Darkholme, aka Nightcrawler, making her Mystique's daughter-in-law. We don't know for sure if she was a mutant or not since she wasn't featured long enough to see any character development. Linda's character was only featured briefly in Uncanny X-Force issue 25, and she was killed off by the Blob. In the issue, Nightcrawler comes home to find the Blob had attacked and killed Linda, and that was kind of the last we heard of her. She was a pretty insignificant character as far as development goes, but she's still a daughter of Mystique by marriage.
Number 6. Charles Xavier II. There are two alternate versions of Charles Xavier II, the son of Mystique and Charles Xavier. However, one was likely erased from existence due to, well, a separate issue, so we're going to focus on the adult Charles II from the alternate Earth of 13729. This version of Charles was believed to have been conceived while Mystique was in the guise of Moira McTaggart. Mystique abandoned baby Charles when he was born. It's unknown how powerful he is exactly compared to his dad, but his powers mirror that of Professor X. He is a capable and disciplined telepath capable of controlling or shielding multiple minds at once. When his powers first manifested, Charles accidentally killed his adopted mother, causing him to seek out his natural birth mother. Instead, he found his maternal half-brother who had already killed their mother and was impersonating her.
Number 5, Magneto. I'm pretty sure everyone knows who Magneto is. He's the super powerful mutant with the ability to create and control magnetic fields. Magneto was married to an alternate version of Rogue during Age of Apocalypse. Rogue, being the adopted daughter of Mystique, makes Magneto Mystique's son-in-law. A lot of marriage. Magneto and Rogue became lovers after it was discovered that Magneto's magnetic powers made him resistant to Rogue's absorption abilities. I don't know how romantic that sounds to me, but I guess it was nice for them. Together the pair had a child named Charles, named after Charles Xavier, making him the grandson of Mystique by law.
Number 4. RAZE Darkholme. RAZE is the child of Mystique and Wolverine from an alternate universe. He hails from Earth 13729 and was created by Brian Michael Bendis and Stuart Immonen. Although he might be the son of Mystique and Logan, he doesn't have a great relationship with either, having tried to kill both of them, and actually succeeding, I think, at least in one of those cases. He joined his half-brother Charles Xavier II on the Future Brotherhood team and passionately believes and fights for mutant rights to an extreme. RAZE believes all humans need to be eliminated in order for mutants to finally live in peace.
Number 3, Nightcrawler. So while she was still in her Raven persona, Mystique marries Baron Christian Wagner, who was a member of the German nobility. Basically, this guy underperformed as a lover, and Mystique headed out behind his back, using her shape-shifting abilities to hook up with other men trying to conceive an heir. Eventually, she meets Azazel, who's this immortal father of the Neophan, super bad spooky guy. Mystique gets pregnant with Azazel's child, and she gives birth to the baby, being Nightcrawler. He was born with blue skin, yellow eyes, and a pointed tail, and if that doesn't scream mutant, I don't know what does. After he was abandoned, he was found by Azazel's lover and raised in the circus. His powers manifested around puberty, and he became the cool blue teleporting dude we know today. Also, fun fact, Mystique and Destiny were supposed to be his bio parents, but the Comics Code Authority prohibited the portrayal of gay or bisexual characters at the time. But it would have been really cool to see them, like,
Number 2. Rogue. Rogue is obviously one of the most well-known of Mystique's children and one of the most popular. Rogue first appeared in the comics in 1981 in Avengers Annual Issue Number 1. We would later learn that Rogue ran away from the hippie commune where she grew up after her mother's death. She would live life on her own for a time, her mutant powers manifesting before she met Mystique. Destiny had sent Mystique to find Rogue and recruit her to their cause, convincing her to join the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. To both Destiny and Mystique, however, Rogue was always like their daughter. Mystique treated her as such, and despite all the wrongdoings she has committed in her past, has always done what she can to protect Rogue. In a way, Rogue probably received Mystique's best attempt at being a good mother, which, you know, doesn't really mean a lot coming from Mystique, because she's a pretty terrible mother, but it's clear to see that Raven truly cares for her daughter, even when Rogue is focused on hating her mom's guts and wants nothing to do with her.
At number 1, Graydon Creed. Graydon Creed is the epitome of mom mommy/daddy issues. He was conceived through the utter seduction and bamboozlement as his mother Mystique seduced freelance assassin Victor Creed, also known as Sabretooth, while they were stationed in Germany. During this time, Mystique, while in her Raven persona, had taken on the identity of deceased German secret agent Lenny Zauber. The two became lovers and had GRAYDON together, though Mystique faked her own death in order to leave Victor and ended up giving GRAYDON up for adoption. Now, even though GRAYDON was born to two mutants, he was not a mutant himself, and this sort of fueled the rage inside of him. So in GRAYDON's later years, he carried this hatred for his parents with him, and it grew to encapsulate all mutants. He even went so far as to organize a group called Friends of Humanity, and though this sounds like a cute and catchy name, their purpose was very much the opposite. The group was opposed to the civil rights of mutants and committed terrorist attacks against them. GRAYDON was also a hopeful presidential candidate at one point, but never fully ascended to the coveted position as he was assassinated by a future version of his mother Mystique as an act of revenge for the Friends of Humanity's part in the attack on Trevor Chase, the descendant of Mystique's lover Destiny.
Number 10. Lasher. Lasher is one of the symbiotes that Venom was forced to give birth to by the Life Foundation, who kidnapped the symbiote in order to make Venom make more symbiotes for them. Which is really messed up and explains why the Venom symbiote was so apprehensive when it was pregnant following its experience with the Life Foundation. Each symbiote that it gave birth to with the Life Foundation seemed to have its own special powers, and Lasher's was that they could remote control from a distance a non-sentient host in addition to their main one, using this other host as a form of reconnaissance or like a scout, or simply to just be in two places at once, which is pretty cool. I've always wanted to be able to be in multiple places at once. I could get so many things done. Number 9. Dylan. Dylan might not initially seem like a child of Venom, but in a way he is. In fact, it's even been suggested that he might actually be a part of Venom, a piece of the symbiote broken off and molded into something new, or at the very least blended with something new. Venom was a genetic contributor at the time of Dylan's conception, as Anne Wang, his mother, was bonded with the Venom symbiote when she became pregnant with Dylan. Dylan is therefore kind of like Eddie's, Anne's, and Venom's child all together. Dylan initially demonstrated powers which allowed him to control and bend symbiotes to his will, in addition to repelling and resisting them if they wanted to bond to him and he didn't want to. This made him insanely powerful. However, during the King in Black event, he lost this power, which it turns out was attached to the God of Light when his father Eddie Brock destroyed Null, who was attempting to take hold of Dylan's body via the living abyss inside him. As it stands now, Dylan is bonded with the Venom symbiote, which grants him some power, but he is also still very new to this whole thing, meaning he's not particularly skilled or really powerful just yet, which is why I ranked him so low. So low, despite his cool powers he once had that were pretty unique. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more Venom lists, you want to learn about more of the Venom family, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Riot. Riot is also known as being one of the strongest symbiotes to have come from the ones Venom gave birth to while being kept prisoner by the Life Foundation. Riot is often suggested to be the strongest of the litter, at least the physically strongest. He is the most buff of the litter, and he has also been referred to as Mr. Riot, which is a name I honestly love a lot. Because of Riot's inherent super strength, the symbiote generally prefers to use its tendrils to create blunt force weapons, which it can then use in combat against its opponents, or to brute strength force its way through any obstacles in its path. Riot Smash. Mr. Riot Smash. Number 7. Scream. Scream was maybe one of the most powerful of the forcibly birthed Life Foundation offspring of Venom, and I mean powerful just in the overall sense. I say was as well because technically Scream was destroyed by Andy Benton, its latest host. In fact, with Andy it was also at its most powerful, as Andy could also summon and wield Hellfire, which it would be immune to so long as Andy willed that. Unfortunately, in the end, the Scream symbiote and Andy ended up in a fight against one another where Andy was forced to defend herself using the very same Hellfire against Scream this time, as opposed to with Scream. This unfortunately kills the symbiote. While it was alive, Scream's powers were similar to the Venom symbiote, which included the added level up of creating wings for itself and using those wings to fly around, and the unique ability of turning its tendrils into hair that they could then manipulate at will, similar to Medusa of the Inhumans. Also, I just like hair powers, I think they're cool. Number 6. Hybrid. Hybrid is the combination of 4 of the Life Foundation symbiotes, all of which were forcibly created offspring of Venom. Hybrid is the entity that exists when Phage, Agony, Lasher, and Riot come together. Being a combined symbiote, Hybrid has all the powers of the individual symbiotes that make it up. Mostly this means it has powers similar to relatives such as Venom and Carnage, but it can also absorb chemicals, produce acid which it can use to attack with, balance the emotions of its host, and can remote control a smaller non-sentient host such as a dog, while still maintaining a bond with its main sentient host at the same time, which obviously that's a power that comes from Lasher. Number 5. Sleeper. Sleeper is the sibling of Dylan and also the 7th symbiote baby of Venom. They are most definitely thought of as Dylan's sibling, as the challenging pregnancy that Venom went through to give birth to Sleeper was not something carried entirely alone. In fact, Eddie even helped directly with this birth, and it was perhaps one of the first pregnancies that was more openly discussed with Eddie, Venom's partner. Eventually at least. And of course in comparison to the other symbiote babies that Venom has had while with Eddie, which I feel like Venom normally didn't even talk about at all. Especially with Carnage. Carnage was like, what? And then later Eddie was like, what was that? And I was like, oh, I had a baby, whatever. Sleeper seems to be autonomous and doesn't specifically need a host, unlike some other symbiotes, especially in those early comic book days. I mean, back in the day, Venom was like, if I don't have a host, I'm literally gonna die. In this way, Sleeper is more of a giver, where their host would benefit more from their bond as opposed to the other way around. Sleeper boosts the abilities of its host and provides the additional power of producing various chemicals, some of which can be used to influence the emotional response of enemies, bending them to their will, making them sleepy, making them less aware so Sleeper can like sneak around more easily. Lots of cool stuff. And technically Sleeper can also kind of use those chemicals to like get a little bit of telepathy going on, which is pretty cool. Number 4. Carnage. Definitely one of the most powerful children of Venom out there, and one that we can't have a list without would be Carnage. Carnage is much more ruthless than Venom and much more prone to violence, though this is likely because of the influence of this symbiote's first and main host, and often their chosen host to this day, Cletus Cassidy, notorious serial killer. Carnage has proven to be so powerful that on countless occasions it's required both Spider-Man and Venom, and oftentimes a whole assembly of other superpowered beings to put a stop to them. Even when others think they can somehow control Carnage, the symbiote has proven to be unstoppable and much too much to handle in most cases. Not only that, but even when Carnage turns to the side of good during the events of Axis, they still prove to be super deadly due to how deranged they are. Even when Carnage was like, I'm gonna be a hero, it was a rough time. Cletus Cassidy inside was like, I don't really know how to be a hero. Do we still kill people? Can I still chop this person up? I like them. I want to chop them up. Number 3. Toxin. Toxin isn't specifically a child of Venom, but is more their grandchild, I suppose. Toxin is an offspring of Carnage, but is believed to be even more powerful than both Carnage and Venom combined. Toxin has all the powers of Carnage, but is believed to be stronger. Additionally, it is said that they have a more strong resistance to heat and sonic waves, making them a tougher opponent in most cases. While Toxin definitely has a dark side, they can also be reined in, which is what their first host, Patrick Mulligan, tried to focus on helping them with, mentoring them and trying to help them learn how to become a hero. So despite Toxin coming from Carnage, they're not inherently bad, though they definitely do have a little bit of a Carnage streak running through them. That's what happens when you're Carnage's child, I guess. Number 2. Silence. Silence was actually what came out of Scream's death. Andy Benton bonded with Silence, believing the symbiote at first to be Scream. In reality, Silence was made out of Scream's remains combined with anti-venom, making it much more powerful in theory than Scream. Technically, it is not a direct child of Venom, but it was made out of the remains of Venom's child Scream, and Venom's sibling, in a sense, anti-venom, known for being one of the most powerful symbiotes around. So because of this, I'm gonna count it as a relative / offspring of sorts, albeit a very weird, very comic book complicated one. I mean, it's kind of like a clone of Venom's child, but then also like kind of part Venom's sibling, so yeah, I don't know. Number 1. Codex. This is technically an alternate future version of Dylan where he becomes a version of the King in Black instead of his dad. Well, at least a version of that on Earth. We meet this version of the character in Venom in the arc prior to the King in Black event. Dylan and Eddie of Earth 616 must team up in order to defeat this alternate god mode version of Dylan, who has become ruler of Earth, creating his own hive mind of symbiotes there that he himself controls. Now, if you thought Null was scary, then you would probably also really love this story featuring Dylan of Earth 1051, known at first as Codex. This version of Dylan would fall under the influence of Null, which was ultimately what turned him dark. Dylan of Earth 616 and his father would help to break the influence Null had over Codex, only for him to fall into a coma and then later be pursued and bonded with by Carnage. Dylan as Carnage in this reality made him even more terrifying than he'd been as Codex. Once more he ruled the Earth, but this time a lot more sadistically, killing and tormenting its inhabitants as he pleased.